In a second communication with Thorhan Eredyan through Elena Danan on July 8, I asked Thorhan questions about a mega project called the Hub, the Earth Alliance being given control of our solar system, China refusing to participate with the Earth Alliance in building a combined space fleet, failing deep state efforts to manufacture a war between Russia and the US military, current events on Ganymede, the differences between how Earth and Palladian military forces are trained, current events on the Moon, space arcs, Cedar ships, and updated disclosure plans.
You are listening to Exopolitics Today with Dr. Michael Salla, your source for the uncensored truth regarding the human, extraterrestrial, global, and political agenda. Click the like button and subscribe to this channel. And now, here's Dr. Michael Salla.
Yes, we are ready. We are recording this conversation. Yes, it is going to go public. Yes, you need to stay serious. Keep serious, yes. Let's go, he said.
Well, can you tell us, Thorhan, where are you located at the moment?
I am on the planet you name Ganymede. I am here for work. I am here to meet with representatives of the Intergalactic Confederation regarding the construction of the new hub in the vicinity of Jupiter. This is what I am doing today, on your day on Terra.
So can you tell us more about the moon Ganymede? Like, what is there? Why is that being used as a base of operations for this big construction project, this gateway?
The construction project is not operated on Ganymede, but in space, in the vicinity of Jupiter, in higher orbit of Jupiter, the most distant gravitational orbit. This is a position that is stable, and the station will not turn around Jupiter. Okay? This station that we call a hub in your language is meant to gather representatives of each organization in this galaxy, plus the Intergalactic Confederation. This hub in space, in the outer orbit of Jupiter, will serve to treat trade and commerce and exchanges and host visitors coming from the Stargate. The Stargate, as you know, is behind the locked orbit of Jupiter. This station is necessary, for there is now more visitors coming into your solar system. All is well, going well with the construction. Soon we will start assembling ships that will serve as elements to start this project. I am here on Ganymede to meet with representatives of the Intergalactic Confederation and other minor groups supplying materials for construction. This is interesting, not the work I used to do, but for change, it is distracting and it is all right.
Is the Earth Alliance involved in this construction project, in supplying material and any resources?
The Earth Alliance is supplying personnel. The materials a little, not sufficiently, because this needs to be built for durability. And there is no material that equals certain provenances in this galaxy. The materials produced on Terra are not sufficiently effective to construct such a structure. It needs to sustain different densities and gravitational forces. So the Earth Alliance will be here to supply personnel when the hub will be finished the construction. Then the Earth Alliance will take over responsibility. First, security, safety, and then, when you will be ready on Terra, the Earth Alliance will take over the management of the hub.
So what kind of personnel are the Earth Alliance providing at the moment for the construction of the hub?
Military personnel to ensure the safety of the construction, that there is no fights and conflicts between the different contractors for building, and also the civilians must not access the construction sites. This is very regulated. The safety is also regarding the incoming visitors, the civilians. You never know who is coming, and you need to really regulate the passage, and there will be taxes beneficent to only one party, the Earth Alliance, because this solar system belongs to Terra, the highest evolved civilization in the system. So Terra will manage the hub and get the taxes.
So who is involved in actually the construction? It sounds as though there are Earth corporations involved in the construction, providing personnel. Is this what is happening?
To Earth Corporation. Most of the materials for the construction comes from different solar systems. But two corporations from Terra are providing certain materials, even if these materials are not sufficiently efficient. These materials provide some kind of help. They need to be part of it. This is why we are including Terran organizations for construction materials, but also technology. For the start, the Terran military will have a district in the hub, only military. When the hub will be finished, then the civilians from Terra will be able to come. This is not for now, this will take time. Some civilian flights are being tested in the orbit of Terra.
Can you say anything about the Terran military that are providing security for this hub construction project? Is US Space Command in charge, or do other Terran nations have significant military personnel?
The corporations are linked with the agreements passed on Jupiter, with also the officers of certain military factions of Terra. All are working together. Those are the personnel that are involved with the Jupiter agreement. The military, I can name them: US Air Force, Space Command is involved. Also, you have Russian military, Italian, Australian, Japan, France, UK. Germany didn't want to get involved. This is the military who are ensuring the safety for the new hub.
Can you comment on the Chinese military? It's very noticeable that they are absent from this group.
They didn't want to continue working with us. They want to build their own force in space. This is not acceptable. They will fail because they do not have any support from any organization of the Galactic Alliance. We are working by diplomatic actions to influence them to not do this, because it will cause economic failures to their country on Terra. They are spending a lot of funds to build space fleet that will not be linked to the Galactic Alliance, to the Earth Alliance. They will be on their own, and this is ridiculous. This is a question of pride. They want to make more profit while not being part of the alliance.
The cooperation between the Russian military and the US military is very interesting, given that at the moment there is a proxy war being created against Russia that is being led by the US military. So this appears to be a contradiction. Is it because the Russian and the American militaries secretly cooperate in space, but on Earth they compete?
You have different factions within the military. These are not the same people who provoke a war, and they want to create this war, which is a misinformation. This war is not meant to happen. This is diplomatic games, and games with the public who will want to know more and will not focus on what is happening for real. These are actions that are distraction from the Dark Ones on Terra. The military that is involved with the Earth Alliance, and the Alliance is, I cannot say more.
Okay. Can you say why the gateway was necessary to be built, given that there is this Ashtar command facility in the upper atmosphere of Jupiter? Why was that not suitable for this kind of task?
The Ashtar Galactic Command Facility in the upper atmosphere of Jupiter is not made to receive traders. It is a military facility. The traders were welcomed on Ganymede in the different facilities. Ashtar Galactic Command, the station named Shan, is not a trading facility, and it has its limited surface. On Ganymede, the different facilities held by different organizations are saturated. Now that your solar system is safe and free, there is a greater number of traders coming in. Now we need to deal with this new affluence of traders. They want to visit Sol, the Sol system, and mine resources and exchange, and they are all dealing, I will say, with the Earth Alliance. We are redirecting them. All organizations will be represented on the hub. The hub is a necessary decision initiated by the Intergalactic Confederation, and this was a good idea because it is safer to have the adequate superficie to receive the traders, the greater number, incoming number, and we need to have more security, greater forces to check them out, that there is no infiltration. This is a very difficult task. The decision was difficult to take, but we took it. The Earth Alliance had the last word for the decision.
What kind of propulsion system will be used to keep the hub in the high atmosphere orbit of Jupiter?
There is no propulsion system used because it is a locked geostationary orbital point. This is stable. There is a propulsion system that will be implied if there is an emergency situation. With torsion fields and other technologies, for the core of the station will be composed of ships from the Intergalactic Confederation that they will offer.
How big will this hub be? What is its overall diameter?
It will vary in time as we will expand it. I am not at the moment able to tell you the exact measurement as it is still in discussion.
When it comes to Ganymede, can you tell us anything about what extraterrestrial civilizations have a permanent presence on Ganymede?
You have different organizations. There is a life form that is original to this planet. Aquatic life forms. The Intergalactic Confederation has the greatest facility on Ganymede. They are located in two positions on the planet. Near the equator, in the upper hemisphere, and one near to the pole, the north, in a region that is called by you the horseshoe. They are here. Then you have the Council of Al-Milan that is represented by Ginvu. You have the Galactic Federation of Worlds represented there. The Terran military have also now a facility there. They used to go in different other facilities. Now they have their own. You have also the League of Merchants that has a hub on Ganymede. And this is when the situation became out of hand. Too many people on Ganymede. This is how we decided to construct the hub.
Has the Galactic Federation been helping the Earth military in the training of their soldiers to perform these duties involving different extraterrestrial visitors?
We gave them the technology. We gave them facilities on board our ships with all the devices necessary for the training. We have been working with Solar Warden. We started with the military organization named US Navy. Then other organizations joined, other countries as well. It is a multi-country organization that you have. We are helping them training soldiers, those who are enhanced. Those who are enhanced are done with the help of our technology. But this is not something that we recommended at first. The Earth Terran military wanted this technology from us. So we gave them because we have agreements within this Earth Alliance. Their composition, genetically speaking, is weak for space combat and facing other species. So they needed help. We offered genetic enhancement, but the Terrans prefer always technology. So we gave it to them, but we are monitoring. Behold, there are dark programs that have been using this same technology, not given by us, but by the enemy. SICAR. And this technology for enhancing the capability and performance of Terra, is not healthy. It is a slavery where the beings suffer and they do not live long. They do not care about the bodies, they do not care about the souls, and they are for them material for war. We disagree with this. The good technology we have been giving to the Earth Alliance is something that is not harmful. It is healthy and it helps the genetics to be improved. But this is technology. We do not use this technology for ourselves. This is a choice. Some of us were not in agreement with this decision to give this technology to the Earth Alliance, but it was decided that they would have it.
Stephen Chua talked about how having high levels of gamma brainwave activity helped him fly-by thought technologies that were reverse engineered from extraterrestrial technologies, and that people or personnel that did not have high gamma brainwaves suffered brain damage or died. So how important is it for Earth military or even your people in terms of developing high gamma brainwave activity for interacting and using advanced technologies?
Our brains are not wired in the same way as the human of Terra brains. This is different. We produce different ranges of brain waves. So this is not comparable. This is why humans of Terra needed, I do not say needed, it is the wrong word. I would say they requested technology. But what they do not understand is that they can develop these brain waves to produce the same brain waves as we do, because we are humans as well. We are the same species. And in the same species, we can reach out to the same achievements. We can show the way, but the military from Terra always wants technology that they can take from us and use differently. To produce gamma brain waves, you do not need technology. You never needed it as humans. This is a training that you can develop, and you can produce them very strongly. Stephen Chua has this ability naturally, for he was a higher soul. Everyone can develop them on Terra. We have them naturally enhanced by nature. But the Terrans need to work, to function, and use their brainwaves, the gamma brainwaves, for doing good on their planet.
Can Thorhan explain how a Erahel is trained to be a warrior?
There is a physical training that is performed that is very intense. The performance must be through training, because through training you train also the mind. If you take technology to enhance your body, you do not grow in consciousness and in resilience with your mind. You can face some situation where the body will be able to physically cope, but your mind will be afraid and weak, and this will be a disaster. We train our soldiers organically. We help development of consciousness as we train to be more fit and stronger. Now we need for the technology to be compatible, to use technology, holographic technology, especially for the pilots and especially for the ground military. We need to stay in contact of a secure manner. So we use technology such as implants. Holographic implants are the most common, for they are not physical and they cannot be detected. Quantum technology and connectivity works wonderfully with holographic technology. When you have a physical device, the quantum is not, I will say, less safe. We train our soldiers with the performance of the mind equal to the performance of the body. The pilots will train the mind sharper and the consciousness. The pilots develop an expansion of their consciousness, and they are in total resonance with their ISB, with who they are, and they can see farther. They can see ahead of the ship. They can see the future, what is going to come their way. It's a piloting from the point of view of consciousness, of consciousness.
没事来酒吧碰碰运气，好像有戏啊！只要5000金币就能买下这个庄园，成交。天，我被骗了，不该轻易相信他的豪华庄园，不会是这里吧？算了，慢慢来吧。我需要木材，先给自己准备一个住处。接下来还需要食料，建好围墙，多种些粮食也很重要，土豆、西红柿、小麦都来点，都准备好了。接下来应该装修一下我的房子了。先从哪里开始呢？那就先从客厅开始吧。接下来是重要的厨房。现在我的豪华庄园彻底完成了。
This game, you're not ready for it.
You're in the middle of this beautiful sci-fi environment, and you're seeing intrigue, the espionage, the alliances form, the power that just shifts around, and it's amazing to watch.
Right, this is primary, Julia, secondary.
Simple actions can have massive effects.
You can cooperate with people, compete with them, make friendships, deceive them, betray them.
It's amazing to think that it's all just other players.
More players start coming. It just starts this complete cascade of actions, and you don't know what's going to happen.
Here it comes.
It is a free-for-all. We'll get locked up.
Have there been human soldiers or Terran military that have participated in the Erahel training? And how did they perform if they did?
Yes, we have a section of combat where humans from Terra decide to enroll. This is a very difficult training because genetically they are weaker than the Ahil. The body cannot withstand the same conditions of pressure, of resilience than we would do. But they choose and they become good and they become a combat elite. They have chosen, but they know that the training is not only physical, but it is also a training in mind and consciousness. These ones are good warriors. They will be special forces on Terra in the Earth Alliance. They will oversee other contingents who choose to fight and to expand their potential with technology and normal Terran training. Consciousness is important for a fighter. You need to be in tune with your body, with your vehicle, with your weapons, and with your purpose. If you do not set your consciousness on a target, you will miss it for sure. This goes very fast when we are in the space. In space, there is no limitation. You can go extremely fast, and the combats are at a high speed. So your consciousness needs to pilot the ship, because the body, the muscular response is not fast enough. This is why consciousness is interfaced with the consciousness of the ship. This is why we build ships that are alive, that have a consciousness. Depending on the cultures, some ships are organically alive, some ships are synthetically alive. There is a great range of technology, a difference, depending on the cultures who build these ships. But, commonly speaking, the consciousness of the pilot is always interfaced with the consciousness of the ship. This is the only way you can drive fast and react fast by thought. Thought can also distort time. You can slow down time to perform an action. This is feasible as well.
Are there particular Earth nations or nationalities or sexes that perform better in this in the training that the Ahel do for their warriors?
The Ta'al are very good. Most of the Ta'al are pilot. The females, especially. The Ahil are good because we are strong physically, and we have a great resilience of emotions. We can easily control our emotions. Not as much as the Ta'al, we are different races. You have other races, such as the Egaloth. They are extremely quick with their thoughts. Among the human races, the Tashkeru have the faster rate of thinking. These are excellent officers, taking decisions such as ship captains, fleet commanders. The Tashkeru are the best officers in the Alliance. You will find that the Ashtar Galactic Command is run by the Tashkeru. This is a very efficient military force. Although mercenary, everyone requires their services.
The US Navy and Solar Warden are known to have developed 20 and back programs. Now, is this something that is going to continue as the Earth Alliance works with the Galactic Federation and the other galactic associations, or will it be discontinued once there is disclosure on planet Earth?
The programs of space combat have been terminated in the Earth Alliance. They are just only finishing their time. You know, in the Earth Alliance, no one is taken in these programs against their free will. They are offered the work. They accept or not. When they accept, they know that their memory will be erased and they will be regressed. They sign. And they are aware, they are perfectly aware. These programs have stopped. They are just only finishing their time. Now, the programs run by the dark military related to the deep state haven't stopped. They think that they can still take people and get them ready by breaking their mind. This will stop eventually. when the deep state, as you call it on Terra, collapses irremediably.
Is the deep state working with China in some capacity? Because China seems to be outside of the Earth Alliance agreements with the Federation in building the hub. So is China secretly working with the deep state, or is there a serious possibility China in the future could be compromised by Earth's enemies?
The country you call China has many ties with the deep state. They play games and you think they are enemies, but in truth they just play economic games that look like, on the surface, they are fighting against each other or competing, but they are not competing. They are just playing games to hide what they are doing behind. Behold, the whole China is not taken by deep state. The good rest of the government is trying to build their own independence and autonomy. You know, they were upset after the Jupiter agreements that they would not be part of the command of the new Terran Military Space Federation. They wanted the power. They were not happy. They decided to take upon this old project of theirs, which is building their own Space Force Federation, trying to gather other nations to their cause and ally with them. They will fail. The other nations go with the stronger, with the Earth Global Federation, the Artemis Accords, that will grow and soon will unveil a new name for the fleet in space. Federated Fleet. China will not be a threat. They will fail because they will be on their own. They will manage, probably, to keep the gathering of other nations nearby their country. But this is not viable, and this is ridiculous, because their economy will fail on this point. It will damage their country. They want to try. They want to take the lunar moon. They are trying, but the presence of the Earth Alliance on Luna is too important. Luna is special. You have, like Ganymede, different organizations from Terra. And these different organizations do not all work together. Luna is now possession and custody of Terra. What they do on Luna is now of the decision of the Terrans. We only intervene when there are exchanges in technology, in the factories of the Earth Alliance. This is our interaction because the Earth Alliance is part of the Federation. We work together. But the other organizations, we have no saying on this. They are just only doing and applying the agendas that they have. We have no say in this.
Who is now on Earth's moon? Is it just the Earth Alliance and countries like China? Or are there extraterrestrial civilizations that still have a permanent presence on the moon?
In the underground of the moon has been inhabited by ancient life forms. These are still there. Also, the Galactic Federation of Worlds has a presence in the facilities we share with the Earth Alliance. There is no more Orion, Nebu, Bucol, the Grace, on Luna. There is neither Siccar on Luna. All the Dark Ones were expelled some time ago.
Our Lunar Operations Command was repurposed to be a healing facility for the Earth Alliance, the Spaceport or Space Command, and it was said that one day that Lunar Operations Command would become a healing center for the entire planet. Is that still happening?
The healing has, I would say, nearly stopped, because the military now is not fighting anymore. Now we are focusing our attention on producing medical devices that will be implemented on Terra when the deep state will have collapsed. We are already implying these technologies. Implementing. Okay. On Terra.
It was described, can you maybe clarify, how many motherships from the Cedar races are currently in Earth orbit, and what are they doing in Earth orbit?
6. 2 new arrived recently. What they are doing in Earth orbit, they are monitoring what humanity of Terra is doing. They are also scanning the population to identify the souls that are from theirs. They are trying to find all the technologies that are in the process of activation that were of theirs. And they are here because they are concerned that the deep state would try to get these technologies to work. They are scanning the population to protect theirs, their own souls, their own envoys. They also have their own envoy program. They want to protect their people.
Are these 6 Cedar motherships using orbs as their probes, as their way of monitoring Earth's nations and the activities of the deep state? Because there has been a surge in the number of orb sightings all over the planet. So do some or many of these come from the motherships?
Many of these, I would say, maybe practically all of them, because some are ours. Some are made on Terra. Most of the orbs, especially the plasma orbs, are from the Intergalactic Confederation. The metallic ones are ours. They are security scanners. The frequency scanners are the Federation, the Intergalactic Confederation. My apologies. I speak fast. She has to repeat.
Okay. What about the space arcs? Are they releasing plasma orbs or metallic orbs?
Plasma orbs. Some are releasing, do not get me wrong, metallic orbs. These are not of the Intergalactic Confederation. These are the Anachim orbs. Okay. A question for someone. There are different sorts of arcs, okay? Not all from the Intergalactic Confederation. You have Anunnaki arcs, as you said. Are there other cultures who left orbs here on Terra, please. All right. We have orbs belonging to other ships of other cultures. Erahil, Silozi, and also ancient civilization that have now left the solar system before the Anahim arrived. A civilization discovered Terra and left technology. They were not the Intergalactic Confederation. They were others, interdimensional cultures. They left technology, ships, and this is very ancient. This also is releasing signals because they have manifested, because you understand, now Terra has been liberated from a long time dark presence, and now all the ancient technologies belonging to different cultures are activating, and these ancient cultures are manifesting to now rejoin with their technology and their envoys. This will be a brand new world. You have barely an idea of what it could be and what it will be, all together.
Is there some kind of countdown happening with the Cedar motherships or with the space arcs appearing in Earth's sky, thereby ending the secrecy concerning extraterrestrial life? Is there a countdown? And if so, is that why there is an increase in disclosure in the United States?
I wouldn't call this a countdown, but a plan with a tight schedule. The countdown could be associated as a name, but I would say it is a schedule with precise dates that can move if events are taking time to be resolved. But the schedule doesn't change. It is definite.
Would the middle of 2024 be an important date? Because this seems to be when the US is in the process of passing legislation where all companies have to reveal the reverse engineering projects they have concerning extraterrestrial technologies by around the middle of 2024. So is that a date or a time that is part of this plan?
To get to this decision, it has taken more time than we expected. This should have happened by the end of 2023. Now, this will happen later because, Terra administration is not all in the power of the Earth Alliance. There are delays that can be expected. Middle of 2024. Yes, you are correct. This will cause change, a positive change. We have taken a little bit of delay, and 2024 we will have the results of a big change. If all goes well, and I believe it will go well. The military will be in charge for a while of governing certain critical faction of the government. There will be more military leaders involved in the government at certain key positions for a transition period. This will be necessary when the remnants of the deep state will collapse.
Well, I want to thank you for answering these questions. They've been very helpful.
My pleasure, Michael. I had told that I would do a second session. You know, you must tell them not to be afraid, because we know what is coming for you. We are working very hard to stabilize and protect our plants, common plants, and the public will know soon. You understand? Tell them that they must not know for the moment, or it will compromise our perfect plan for the disclosure of our presence. This is a game, a very tight game we need to play with the Dark Ones. And as long as the game goes on, we cannot unveil our moves to the public. I apologize, this is the truth. Tell them to be patient and to focus on what they need to do for themselves and the world around them. The truth is on its way.
Thank you.
You have been listening to Exopolitics Today with Dr. Michael Salla. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Join or start a conversation in the comments. Take the time to explore the vast library of best-selling books, webinars, and podcasts by Dr. Salla. Visit exopoliticstoday.com.
When there's nothing holding you back, what would your thing be?
Here's Dr. Michael Salla.
It's my great pleasure to welcome back to Exopolitics Today the legend himself, Alex Collier. Welcome, Alex.
Well, thank you, Michael. This is our second interview ever after knowing each other for what, 20 years now?
Yeah, it's been a while. This is our second one-on-one, and I've read all of your stuff. I remember, the letters from Andromeda, and of course, Defending Sacred Ground, and your lectures, and awesome stuff. Back in the 90s, and now it's all kind of like people. We're talking about it now, and they're taking it seriously, which
it was ahead of its time. It was ahead of its time.
Yeah, well, you were ahead of your time, my friend, and you paid a heavy price for that. But you're still here, and I'm very glad that people are paying attention to what you have to say, and I'm certainly a big fan. And I remember one of your lectures where you talked about galactic history and talked about the 22 extraterrestrial civilizations that helped establish humanity's DNA. So I just wanted you to kind of like go over a little bit of that and where the Andromedans fit into it all.
Well, they're an equal part of the 22. They had third and they had mostly fourth density beings that came here. And it was the fourth density beings whose DNA was shared with humanity. I'm a little fuzzy on the dates because it's been quite a long time since we had this discussion, or I've had this discussion with anybody, because I thought we were just talking about the nuclear stuff. But, as they were here and for whatever their circumstances were, they decided to stay or were forced to remain here, their fourth density bodies began to slow down and they would become more and more physical. And therefore, they were able to share their DNA through relationships. Now, they're not the only ones who have had this experience. There are some Pleiadians. There are some Aldebarans. There are those from Altar, Cygnus Alpha, who also, and I think Hercules, I'm almost positive Hercules as well, where that because they were here and they remained here and chose to be here for whatever reason, whether they were forced to or not, because they could not get into their craft and maintain their physical frequency, they adapted to the environment and the band of frequencies that they were in, and they became more solid, more physical. And at some point, they were able to pass on genetics. And I think, that's something that's important. A lot of people kind of run over, when we talk about the Nephilim and the giants. Those Anunnaki were third density. When they refer to them as the shining ones, they were wearing technology. They were wearing environmental suits, which would cast off a light or a reflection of the sun or a star. Could have been anything at that point, because the physical environment that they live in third density is very, very different than what Earth was. They require a great deal of carbon dioxide, more than what we currently had at that particular time in our atmosphere. Now, remember, there was a period of time where the oxygen content here was well over 28%. That was not an environment that was specifically conducive to them without technology. Now, today, it could be that they could handle this without literally the bodysuit, because I think the oxygen content is somewhere between 17 and 14%. Depends on where you are on the planet. And what's replaced that is carbon dioxide, CO2. So, there's all kinds of changes. Things are constantly changing. And, people say, well, nothing's happening. I even joke about it. Of course, there's all kinds of things happening. So, but the A's were just one of many groups that were here, 22. Now I understand, I think Elena is saying there's 24 genetic markers, specific markers. So, and it'll probably continue to grow, because the early information is that because of our genetic makeup, our physicality could adapt to almost any environment, even multidimensional. The only modification would have to be the turning on of the DNA strands. That's all that would have to happen by other races, a genetic modification to turn on our DNA. And once let's say they turned on the third strand, then a fourth strand, our bodies would almost immediately, over a period of time, adapt to that specific density. And we're extremely rare in that way. That's what makes us part of the royalty.
Were the Anunnaki, in terms of those 22 or 24 civilizations, were they at the end of the genetic modifications of the human genome?
Yes, they were. Yes, they were. Yes, they were. When they added their piece to it, in order to keep us from rebelling, because we were very much like them, what they did is they began to modify the birthing process. And then what they also did was, on the mothers, they began to turn off the third strand of DNA. So all offspring after that would not have the third strand on or turned on or lit up. And we were more easily controllable, malleable after that. And it only takes 2 or 3 generations, maybe the most 4 generations. And whatever you were 250 years ago is gone. What you are now is what you are. And of course, there's programming, there's educational systems, there are rules, regulations, all of these things that help contribute to shaping and forming an obedient society. One that they could control and, maintain as slaves.
So in terms of that creation of us as a slave species by the Anunnaki, it brings me to this whole Enki versus Enlil conflict. Was Enki truly the benevolent one that was wanting to kind of like enhance the human potential because he recognized how we had this incredible mix of ET genetics from earlier interventions, and Enlil was the kind of tyrant that just wanted a slave race, and he wanted to turn off those 12 strands and just get us down to 2 strand, and that was really what happened.
Yes. Enki gave us part of his own DNA. That was the Anunnaki piece. It was a piece of his own DNA and his wife's DNA, his partner, wife, whatever social structure they have in the Anunnaki hierarchy. It's important to remember that Enlil, he and his brother didn't get along a lot. That's a fact, and it's recorded. What's also interesting is that, Enlil tried to drown the human race at least once. And I find it interesting where, they want to make Enki Satan. And, he who wins the war writes the history. And unfortunately, Enlil, who was the older brother and the true bloodline prince of Anu, had an advantage. He totally had an advantage. So for those who say, Enki's the bad guy, he tried to kill us, why would he be trying to kill his own children? Does that truly make sense to anybody who isn't psychotic? And how is it that someone who can create life to the measure that he was able to would be a psychopath? Psychopaths don't create life, they destroy life. That's all going to come out. All that information the Vatican has had underneath, and you brought up the Naked Bible in your last webinar, which was fantastic, by the way. Again, a very tough lecture to give, Michael, and you hit it out of the park. So, they know the true story. They just don't want us to know the true story. Because by consolidating and compartmentalizing everything, they give us a 5% view of reality. And that makes us very controllable because we don't know the rest. We can't even see the rest. And they've always done this, and they've learned this. This is all learned behavior. The Anunnaki did this to us themselves, by breaking things down, and then enslaving, and then separating humanity, dividing each group genetically by race, and then teaching everyone a different language, and then using humanity to fight their battles, their skirmishes, their tantrums with each other. And, they even used nuclear weapons, and there's evidence of that all over the planet, that at some point, thousands of years ago, someone used nuclear weapons. There's no denying it. The science is absolutely there. So
yes. Yeah, no, that's
that wasn't us. That clearly wasn't us. So,
well, yeah, one of the things that kind of helps clarify, the big picture of where we are today is that Enki and the scientists that helped him in the early genetic modification and wanted to kind of like enhance the human potential, that they were the losing side, and they had to leave they lost all influence. And Enlil, I guess, left with the main bunch of the Anunnaki, but left behind a clique that ruled humanity as the high priests and the hybrids, and that they kind of like administered conventional religion. So, that's been pretty much the way things have played out for tens of thousands of years. But recently, Enki has returned to our solar system. So I just wanted you to kind of like maybe elaborate a little bit on how you learned that Enki had returned and what he brings back with him.
Well, Morane told me he was back. He told me he was returning. I knew this many years ago, that he was going to return. Now, please understand that after Enki had created humanity and the Anunnaki were pulled from the mines, and then humanity went into the mines and started doing all the labor, including growing the food and raising crops, and they learned husbandry, etc., etc., etc. Started bearing them children as well. He was promised by Anu that he could have rulership over the earth. And that's when trouble started between Enki and Enlil, was at that point. And Enlil worked his father, worked his father, worked his father, worked his mother, worked everybody. And then when Anu decided to renege, that's when the problems came up with Marduk, some call Ra. And he started the Pyramid Wars because it was such a slap in the face to not only his father and mother, but to the family itself. And that was a huge mistake. There should have been another way to deal with it. But it happened the way it happened. And I know people will say, well, that didn't happen because such and this, such and that. I've verified this. I have verified this. This is the only reason I'm talking about it. That actually went down. And that's when Enki had to leave and the rest of the family was required to go. And Enlil, who simply just tolerated humanity, basically set us on a course to self-destruct. And a lot of it has been intentional, putting us on this path and making sure that the structures that were put in place, which involved not only the hybrid Nephilim, but also the royal bloodlines, and then the structures of religion, government, poverty, all the things that we see today, all those structures were specifically ordered to be put in place so that we would collapse and take ourselves out. Now, and we've fallen for it because we lost our history. We lost the knowledge of our history of who we were. Now, what's interesting is that, yes, we have the Sumerian text, we have Chaldean text, etc., but there is a tremendous amount of knowledge that still remains in Arabic texts on this planet that talk about all this stuff. Very, very simple, very specific information, including technology, how it worked, what it was, and researchers, archaeologists, whatever you call those guys, that do that kind of work specifically because of the money involved. They look at all that and say it's nothing but fairy tales and fiction, nonfiction. They just wrote elaborate stories, and nothing could be further from the truth. And I'm going to send you something, and I'm going to send it to you in the next few days that will set you on a path. I was going to tell you about this anyway today. That will set you on a path to know exactly what I'm talking about. And I learned about this from them. So the Arabic texts that are still hidden or suppressed have a great deal of our history. Pieces that really connect things and fill the gaps for us, because they were writing as survivors, as gypsies, as those wandering through the desert, just like the Ibri, who we now call the Hebrew. Okay, they were gypsies too, just like many of the other Arab nomad races and tribes. They were just trying to survive the gods warring with each other, aka the Anunnaki. So it's complicated. It's really, really complicated, and it's even more complicated when we don't have a compass. We don't have a direction in which to really understand the little bit of history we know. We have taken a lot of things at face value. And, for example, Columbus discovered America. That's still the narrative, right? That's still the narrative. And yet, there are archaeological finds all over the planet proving that seafaring civilizations 10,000 years ago had traveled the world. The Perry-Reese map, which they say is still the oldest, was made by other maps that were given to an admiral of Alexander the Great by a custodian of the Library of Alexandria. He gave him the maps in order for the Perry-Reese map to put together. And those maps were hundreds and hundreds, if not 1,000 years older than the Perry-Reese map. So they all knew where they were going. It's so what we've been taught and what we're still being taught, or the kids are still being taught in school, is nothing but rubbish. It's fertilizer. That's all it is. It's fertilizer. And it's really aggravating because, I know this stuff and I have these issues with mine. They think I'm crazy because that's not what they were taught in school. And I'm like, dude, and to get them to read a book today is very difficult, because that means they got to put down their phone and hold the book.
Education is not what it once was, that's for sure.
No. And I mean, the evidence, there is so much evidence for them to at least question what they were taught in school. And in some areas, or actually many areas at this point now, it totally contradicts everything they've been taught in school. For example, if you get a Encyclopedia Britannica 1956 and you open it up to Apollonius of Tyana, it says there that he in fact was Paul the Apostle. Okay, which is interesting because after 1962, that whole thing disappeared. And many things that were in the Encyclopedia Britannica regarding history after 1962 just vanished. They were just taken out, Why? Why were they censoring history? Why would anybody censor history? unless you don't want someone to know, because it's not a narrative that they want us to live, to be a part of. They had their own agenda, and that was to lead us in this other place to, what they're trying to do now at this point of, creating a race of slave consumers. End of story. Don't question authority. You'll do as you're told, and we will experiment on you and your children genetically in any way we want. Just shut up and take it.
That seems to be pretty much the kind of Enlil agenda as some of
It's exactly right. It's exactly right. It's exactly right. Because they created this royal race. They're the ones who put the last piece in there,
So I'm very interested.
And whatever the politics is of that out there in the galaxy, it's obviously something they don't want to deal with.
So that last piece that the Anunnaki brought in, the Enki side or Enki himself saw this potential. And I guess this raises the question of 12-stranded DNA and 3-stranded DNA. And so what was it that humanity had before the Anunnaki interfered with them? Were we using 3 strands? How, in terms of that 12-stranded, 3-stranded DNA, how does that operate in relationship to what was turned off? I think you already mentioned that the 3rd strand was turned off.
Yes, so it was already operative, which is why we were becoming like them. We were wanting to do the same things. We were wanting to travel off-world, build our own starships. We had knowledge of our solar system because they had given it to the Sumerians. They gave them our entire solar system, a description of it from the outside in. And everybody knew it at those particular times. Everybody knew the history. The Chaldeans have vast records of sharing information and knowledge with what they called the Venusians. And they referred to them as the Titans. And they would invite them to their councils. They would invite them to come in and share their knowledge during specific meetings and political crises and creating laws, political structures. They talk about how they were always involved. And then at some point, the Titans, the Venusians, just left and they never saw them again. So, humanity has had this interaction with many different extraterrestrial races. And they still did up until very shortly, and you can look at the group that Enlil left here of the Anunnaki. You can look at the Orions, you can look at the Draconians, you can look at the Greys. That is still extraterrestrial interaction. That doesn't just, because they're regressive, that doesn't mean it just falls off and you don't count it. That is still God, what's the word here? That's still communicating with off-world races. Positive or negative, it's still a relationship, okay? And knowledge is being exchanged. I mean, the deep states, they have a lot of knowledge, but that knowledge is not about really how to create and nurture a civilization. The information they have, or they've been taught, is all about how to suppress a civilization, to control it, to maim it, to manipulate it. So the information and the knowledge that they were given is of a very dark energy, low energy frequency. So it's not something we could use in order to evolve humanity. And this is where intervention has come in from many different races, not just the A's, but, Elena talks about it in her book, The Cedars. You know, you've talked about it. I've talked about it. JP's talking about it. Wendell Stevens talked about it. Meyer talked about it. So many people have been talking about, you know, intervention and relationships with off-world that, you know, and it's here to balance that enlil regressive manipulation that was planted here in order to undermine humanity's growth in virtually every single way. It doesn't matter how many we are if we have no idea who we are. We're going to be controllable. We're going to be slaves. But if you know who you are, even a small group of people who know who they are a force to reckon with. But when you have a population of billions and they know who they are, we can change and do anything with a vision, with clear goals of what it is that we want. They wanted to make sure we never got there.
That's
and
amazing.
It was for the fact that we had all these amazing soul groups coming in here from different dimensions, wanting to attach to this royal physicality and seeing the potential of shifting and changing the frequency of our galaxy. I don't know what would have happened to us, but thank God they did, we did, we saw the potential and the possibility of making this type of change. And this is where we are. And this is where we are. This is the piece of information that's coming to humanity.
So I want to kind of like ask a question about what's going to be the catalyst for that change. In her book, The Cedars, Elena says that she met with Enki and that he said he had a gift for humanity, that he had brought back the original Adamic DNA, and that he had passed it on to the Galactic Federation, and they in turn had passed it on to the Earth Alliance, and they were building all of these medical technologies that would restore the original, I guess, 12-stranded Adamic DNA. So, you know, my question is does that mean that going back to that original Adamic DNA, that, or realizing that full inherent potential, is that going to be through undergoing this kind of medical technology, or can we do it just through spiritual consciousness raising means?